This is the procedure you take if a police car is pulling you over. If a police car is following you with a siren blaring or emergency lights flashing, pull over to the right safely and quickly. Pull over in a way that will be most likely to calm down an angry or annoyed officer. Use your turn signal to indicate any lane changes from left to right and slow down fairly quickly, but not so quickly that the officer will have to brake to avoid hitting you. Pull over as far to the right as possible so that when the officer comes up to your window, he or she won't have to worry about being clipped by vehicles in the right lane. By stopping as soon as you can, you'll have a better chance of figuring out exactly where the officer says you committed a violation. You may want to return to that area later to make sure the officer was telling the truth about how he or she judged your speed. After you've pulled over to a safe spot, you might want to show the officer a few other token courtesies. At this point, you have little to lose and perhaps something to gain. First off, roll down your window all the way. You may also want to turn off the engine, place your hands on the steering wheel, and if it's dark, turn on your interior lights. This will tend to allay any fears the officer may have. After all, police officers are killed every day in such quote-unquote ordinary traffic stop situations, and the officer's approach to the vehicle is potentially the most dangerous. Don't start rummaging through your back pocket for your wallet and license or in your glove compartment for your registration until the officer asks you for them. For all the officer knows, you could be reaching for a gun. If you are at all concerned that the person who stopped you is not actually a police officer, for example, if the car that pulled you over is unmarked, you should ask to see the officer's photo identification along with his badge. If you still have any doubts, you can ask the officer to call a supervisor to the scene, or you can request that you be allowed to follow the officer to a police station. A police officer is normally not allowed to search your vehicle. However, there are several exceptions to this. An officer who observes you trying to either hide something under the seat or throw something out of the window may legally search your car. Once cops are on your rear bumper with his spotlight silhouetting your every move, they're watching for any sort of furtive movement. A sudden lowering of one or both shoulders will tip them off that you are attempting to hide something under the seat. If the officer has any reasonable suspicion that you are armed and dangerous, he or she can frisk you. Similarly, if the officer reasonably suspects that you are involved in criminal activity, he or she can also perform a pat-down, and if the police officer has probable cause, they can search your car and objects belonging to passengers. Even if the officer doesn't have reasonable suspicion or probable cause, once you are stopped, a police officer may seize any illegal objects in your car that are in plain view. Once they see the objects, such as an open beer or wine bottles or drug paraphernalia, they can open the car door and reach in and get it. After that, they may come across other objects that are in plain view and shouldn't be in your car, and they can seize these too. Lastly, your car may also be searched if you or any occupants are arrested. Also, if you are arrested and your car is towed, the police may make an inventory search. Afterward, even if they have no reason to suspect there is anything illegal inside. Many people stopped by an officer and make the mistake of saying the wrong thing to him or her and failing to say the right things. And a case can be won or lost depending on what you say or don't say to the officer. Don't speak first. Especially don't start off with a defensive or hostile, "What's the problem?" or similar words. Let the officer start talking. He or she will probably ask to see your license and vehicle registration. Many people make the mistake of insisting the officer tell them why they were stopped before they'll comply. Don't make that mistake. Reply okay or sure, then hand over the documents. One of the first things traffic cops learn in the police academy is to decide before leaving their vehicle whether they're going to give a ticket or just a warning. They may act as though they still haven't made up their minds and are going to let you off only if you'll cooperate. Don't fall for this. The hesitating officer may be trying to appear open-minded in order to extract admissions out of you, to use them against you in court if necessary. The strategy is to try to get you to admit either you committed a violation or that you were so careless, inattentive, or negligent that you don't know whether you did or not. The officer might start by asking you the sort of question whose lack of definitive answer would imply guilt, like, "Do you know why I stopped you?" Or he or she might ask, "Do you know how fast you were going?" Your answers, if any, should be non-committal and brief, like a simple no to the first question, or a very confident "yes, I do" to the second. If the officer then tells you how fast he or she thinks you are going, or what he or she thinks you did, don't argue. Give a non-committal answer like "I see" or no answer at all. Silence is not an admission of guilt and cannot be used against you in court. After all the questions have been asked, the police officer will return to his car with your license and registration. He will run them through his systems and then return to your car with either a warning or a ticket. If you receive a ticket, do not argue. If you seriously have a problem with it, you can settle it in court if need be.